right, and we are back. Welcome to Greatness at Any Cost. Sorry, I'm adjusting here on the couch for anybody that's watching the video. Welcome back to Greatness at Any Cost. We are your host. I'm Devin, and this is Jonathan. And we had said last week we were going to talk about historic, so I guess we're actually going to talk about historic. And there's also plenty of more Modern Horizons stuff. It's like right after we did the episode, bam, like the spice, man. They just dropped the spiciest stuff. Like,
there were already some good cards that they were, spoiled, but yeah.
I know, dude.
So many better ones.
So, I guess just like super quick, I do want to run over some historic because we've been playing a lot of online Magic, especially Arena. Just because of the past year and everything that's been going on, there hasn't been any paper Magic, really. So, I've really gotten into historic. I don't know about you. Do you mostly play historic, or do you play a lot of standard on Arena?
When I play Arena, I try to play historic just because I don't want to have to put all the money for the constant new sets.
Yeah, just to keep up with standard. Lately,
I've not played a whole lot of online Magic in general, because of some of the debauchery going around.
Well, you're not missing much, in my opinion. So, my big issue with historic is with the anthologies that they release for historic, they're kind of slowly moving like modern cards into historic, which is like the principle, the idea is fine. Like, we want to expand historic, make it a bigger format, so we're going to make these like supplemental sets. Yeah, I guess you could kind of think of them as like historic master sets kind of deal, right?
Pretty much.
And they're releasing cards in them that sometimes just don't make sense to me. Like, and then on top of that, with Strixhaven, you had this special edition, Strixhaven thing, and it had a bunch of cards in it too that are going to be historic legal, that aren't standard legal, that just seem like really strange choices. Like, they went ahead and banned, even before the Strixhaven special edition thing came out, they went ahead and banned like Lightning Bolt and Swords of Plowshare. And it's like, I get that they wanted those special edition arts in paper form, but like, why? I don't know, man. It just seemed really redundant to me. Like, why are we printing Swords of Plowshares and Lightning Bolts and Dark Ritual and stuff like that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I was just like, but then on the other side of it, they're going to ban that kind of stuff up front before it even gets a chance to be in the format. But then in the anthology, or was it in, I can't remember if it was in the Strixhaven thing or if it was in the anthology. I forget. But Brainstorm's legal in the format.
That was also in the
Strixhaven thing. So it's like, what? Okay, Brainstorm's fine. And spoiler alert, guy, Brainstorm is not fine. It's not fine. Like, because you do have fetches. You have
Fable Passage, Evolving Wilds.
I mean, no one plays Evolving Wilds, but you see Fable Passage all the time.
You've also, you do have other things on sticks that shuffle your deck.
Yeah,
so
there's so many ways to really capitalize on Brainstorm. And on top of that, just like, and these are just regular standard cards, but the ultimatums too. The ultimatum decks are gross. It's like Tybalt's trickery too. Like, we got to talk about that. Like, being able to turn to your own Ugin or your own emergent ultimatum that just gets you an Ugin.
Okay.
Like,
the deck that I play for historic is the colorless black deck.
Yeah.
The only black cards in it, there's some sideboard cards and extinction events. And I can play an Ugin early, but I have to spend like 2 turns ramping this card, ramping that card, ramping this card, ramping to this card to get an Ugin on turn like 5.
Yeah,
I can maybe get it turn 4 if you have the right things, but then you're kind of out of cards.
Yeah.
If you can mulligan down to 3 cards and
have a turn 2 Ugin.
Turn 2 get your Ugin, that's broken. I understand it's a glass cannon.
Yeah. When it fails, it fails.
Yeah, when it fails, there's
you either do it or you don't. Yeah,
you get like a 5% chance of recovery if you fail.
But the fact that they can hit ultimatum, or they can hit what's the serpent called?
I don't even
something. It's a blue-green 6/6 serpent. I can't remember its name. It's like Kadama or something like that.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I just can't remember the name of it.
It shoots out 3/3 serpents like every turn or something too.
Each upkeep you make a 3/3.
Each upkeep you make a 3/3 serpent. So it's like they either hit that, or they hit Ugin, or they hit Emergent Ultimatum, which gets them those cards. So the deck has a lot of, like, I mean, it doesn't whiff as much as you want it to whiff. Like, it really doesn't. Like,
usually the deck, if the part that, if it doesn't work, it's because you have to mulligan and someone interrupts your cast of it. It's very rarely that they whiff from the trickery.
Yeah. And the fact that so there was a banning for Historic a week and a half ago, something like that. And they banned Thassa's Oracle, which is fine. Like, that deck was gross. Like, okay, that was fine. But I felt like there was a lot of other things that needed to be addressed in the format besides just Thassa's Oracle.
Honestly, like, Thassa's Oracle was a pretty brutal card.
Yeah.
But the card in a vacuum by itself was really good. Like, you didn't even have to have the cards that made it broken to want to play that card.
Yeah, that's just a good card by itself.
I think that they banned the wrong card, to be honest.
Really? What would you have banned?
The combo pieces that any of the decks rarely play.
Yeah.
Like,
because there are some other decks that just play Thassa's Oracle just for value. Like, it's just a good card by itself. Yeah. So you ban the enablers in the combo deck. You don't ban the card that can be played in other decks just as it is.
Yes. Yeah. I understand.
Kind of like the Saheeli Filter Guardian thing. It was like they banned Filter Guardian because it's a 50-cent uncommon that only gets run in this one deck, and Saheeli gets play in a lot of things. Yeah.
And I understand they had just printed cards. They wanted to shift the format and get things changed up, but their banning a lot of their bannings confuse people. Yeah. This banning, was one of those, like, you understand that the deck itself was pretty overpowered.
It needed to be dealt with. Maybe they just banned the cards that are, like, specific to that combo and not Thassa's Oracle.
Yes.
Yeah. I can get behind that. But I feel like Brainstorm is such an issue that just is, like, not even talked about. Everyone's just like, no, this is fine. And it's like, dude, okay, if it's not fine in any other format it could be in, like, other than, I mean, if it's not fine in Modern, like, why is it fine in Historic? Like,
here's a hot take. If it's good enough to play 4 of it in Legacy, maybe it shouldn't be allowed in formats like Historic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It just feels really bad when you're playing. So, like, some of the Historic decks. So, like, the issue, I guess, back to the whole, like, them releasing Historic anthologies with just, like, limited numbers of cards in them. It feels like they're slowly trying to turn Historic into, like, Modern or Pioneer or something, which is fine. That's a good idea. I like the idea. But the execution of it winds up leaving some decks feeling like Modern decks because they have all these really powerful cards in them. And then some decks just wind up still feeling like standard decks from 2 years ago.
Okay.
They don't feel, so the power level seems really skewed. Like
perfect example. One of the top percentage decks right now,
and that deck just didn't exist
in Historic.
That deck just didn't exist a couple months ago, but they banned Faithless Looting. It's another card I forgot about, or I forgot to bring up a minute ago. They banned Faithless Looting in Modern, then immediately turned around and printed it in Historic. Which, okay. And it's just a modern deck from...
Change a few things up in this deck, and not even a lot. Like maybe maybe 6 individual cards. Change them up, and it's modern playable. And like when that is going against,
guess what happened to me today when I was playing in Historic?
That format.
So there's this new Simic card. We're really bad. I should have looked the names of all these cards up, but I didn't really know what we were going to talk about per se. So, but it's a new Simic card that makes a token, and the token is its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in your library. Yeah. So this dude, he turned 2 to
oh yeah, that's
and how much is Explorer? Is it 2 or 3?
He turn 2 to how much is Explorer?
So he turned 2 Explored, then he turned 3 Cultivated. He turned 4 was able to play this spell and make a 47/47 creature, and then he untapped and flinged it at me.
And make a 47/47
Oh,
what?
What am I supposed to do? Yeah, I was playing mono white life game.
You can't have Swords to Plowshare.
So I had 30 life or something, or 35 life, but it just didn't matter. He yeeted a 47/47 right in my face. I'm what am I supposed to do about that in mono white? If I had Swords of Plowshare, I would have had an answer to it.
What am I supposed to do about that in mono white?
For playing live game.
Okay, I take all that back. You deserve that. Dude, I've had the life game deck on turn 4.
I can get turn 4 wins with that deck.
Be up to 80
if I
or something.
Curve out right, yeah. Especially if they don't kill anything for some reason. If they just don't kill any of your stuff, which happens more than you would think. People just don't kill any of your things, and then you just okay. But no, I'm not salty about that. That was just kind of funny. He played it, and I ran out a bunch of dudes to block, and I was like, he's gonna fling it. I was like, I know he's gonna fling it. I know he's gonna fling it. Yeah, and then he just untapped.
You don't play a 40/40 creature.
I was like, okay,
have the
cool.
capabilities.
That was
just
funny.
Throw it at your face.
No, but the Phoenix deck, dude. I mean, having Faithless Looting in this format, having Brainstorm in this format, is just having the ultimatums in this format, having Memory Lapse in this format. And let's talk about how dumb Memory Lapse is. So, at least when you get counterspelled, the card goes away to your graveyard. So you can keep drawing from your deck. You maybe draw a land you need or another card that's better than the one you had, right? Memory Lapse just puts it back on top of your deck. So it just sits you back like a whole... especially if you don't have if you're playing a low curve aggro deck and you only have 2 lands and you're like, man, I really need my 3rd land drop, and then they memory lapse your Robber of the Rich or something, and they put it back on top of your deck, you're just like, I'm so far behind now. It's ridiculous. It's a good card. I just don't know if
Guilty
it's
pleasure is that I love that card.
Like I said, it makes that deck play like a modern deck, and then the decks I'm playing feel like standard decks from 2 years ago. You know what I mean? It's and I know people will just say, well, then just play one of those decks, and it's well, okay, but then the entire format is just nothing but those decks. You know what I mean? Then you run into 60% of the meta is just decks that play Memory Lapse, what do you, or play Faithless Looting or Brainstorm, or all 3 of them. And you're like, I don't want a format like that.
Or play Faithless Looting or Brainstorm, or all 3 of them.
Okay.
You're like, I don't want a format like that.
Looking at the top 12 played decks for Historic right now.
Yeah.
6 of those decks out of the
and
top
probably
12
Memory Lapse too.
Play blue, and every one of them are playing a card like Brainstorm.
And probably Memory Lapse too.
I don't know.
I see a lot of decks playing that card.
I know the blue-white decks are.
So that's kind of my issues with Historic at the moment. I just feel like so those are kind of my issues with Historic at the moment. I just feel like I feel like it's a good idea.
Bit of them are, yes.
Because the problem with Arena is so many people have been playing Magic for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, right? And they want to play Modern. They want to play EDH. They want to play Legacy. They want to play Vintage. They want to play these formats that they've been playing for a long time. And Arena just doesn't facilitate them. It just doesn't have them on there, right? So they're stuck on MTGO playing in a super antiquated platform. You know what I mean? Like, with no support or very little support. And it's just one of those things that, like... So I like the idea of getting these cards into Historic to maybe have Modern or Pioneer or something on Historic. Yeah, that's a great idea. But the execution of it,
because we know everybody knows that's where it's eventually going.
Very overpowered, and some decks feeling very underwhelming. So that's kind of my take on it.
And some decks feeling it's kind of like a hard. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a hard rotation. It's like, sure, you don't have like standard sets coming out technically for Historic to change them up, but you do have the anthology releases that they are like very forcibly changing the format so that different decks can be good. The only problem is the spike from the previous one to the next.
It's too jarring. Like when a new standard set comes out, the meta changes
a little,
but
too
it doesn't
much for
like
people.
sometimes it doesn't.
When a new standard set comes out, the meta changes.
Yeah,
but you can still play
it seems
a
like
deck from
the past couple of things that have dropped for Historic have like
and
really shaken up the format. Which I mean, maybe that's what they're going for, but it just, like I said, some decks feel really underwhelming. Some decks feel like they're almost just Modern decks. So that's kind of my take on it.
My other problem feel like they're almost as modern. If you don't play Historic, that's kind of my take on it.
My other problem with it is, if you don't play Historic a lot, like I didn't play Magic on Arena for a while, and I got back in, and then I bought some cards, got some wild cards, made me a deck, and then I didn't pay attention to it. That was my bad. The new set came out, and because of all of the special cards that they put in it, it really underpowered the deck that I had. Like, the colorless deck's not that great anymore. And I had just spent the money to build that deck. So it makes it to where you have to pay attention to that. And, if I'm going to have to wait, 2-3 weeks, a month to build a deck.
It doesn't feel like a format like Modern.
I've already looked
like
at doing something else.
Unless something gets banned from your deck, the deck's pretty viable, like for a long time. Yeah.
Unless something gets banned from your deck, the deck's pretty viable, like for a long time. Built for it.
I mean, I play Tron in Modern. Like, I had that deck built for
it's still playable.
Forever.
You can still take it out. You can still get wins with it.
It's not top.
You don't just feel like you're
but it's
outclassed
still good.
like every time you try to play it. Yeah.
You don't just feel like you're outclassed.
So, speaking of Modern,
yes, and that is the big problem with Historic.
I know, right? Speaking of Modern, they dropped some stuff. So
that segue worked really good, actually.
First thing I want to hit on is Torok Dreadcanter.
Spicy
So
stuff.
it's him to Torok on a stick.
First thing I want to hit on is
Like, okay, he's a 2-mana 2/1, and he has kicker. He's black and colorless. He has kicker for black. So for 4 mana, you get a 2/1, and you get to him to Torok them. And whenever an opponent discards a card, you put a 1/1 counter on this dude. So, whenever he enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target opponent discards 2 cards at random. That's him to Torok. So, Torok Dreadcanter. Oh, I didn't even see that. Oh man, pro white. Okay.
Did you mention
so that card is like
white?
Real good. Again, we talked about this last week. the theme with these like reprints, or I wouldn't even call them reprint sets because it's not. These are new quote air quotes new cards, but it's a lot of them are like something old that you wish was in the format on a stick. Kind of seems to be like the generic theme of these. Yeah. But this one is still low mana enough to where it's like, okay.
Usually costing more.
Imperial Recruiter. So that guy's here. In another reprint. When he enters the battlefield, search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. 1/1 for 3. So, like, his ability's awesome. His stats, meh. This is like a 3-mana 1/1, but you're not playing him for that. But he is a human, so that is relevant. Because, you know, one of him in a human's deck will do a lot of work for you, so.
Here's a card that
Oh, yeah.
I'm mentioning this one because I'm sad that it's not in standard.
Okay.
Here's a card that
This card would
I'm mentioning this one because I'm sad that it's not in standard. In standard, this card would be amazing, but in modern, I'm looking at it as
What?
extremely lackluster. It's the Merkride Regent,
Merkride Regent.
5 and 2 blue,
Five
all the way at the top.
for a 3/3 flyer with death.
Okay.
So 5 and 2 blue for a 3/3 flyer,
potentially
with
2
delve.
mana for a 3/3 flyer. But wait, there's more.
Potentially when he enters the battle, or he enters the battle.
But there's more.
Instant sorcery card.
When he enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each instant and sorcery card exiled with it.
So
So for each instant or sorcery you use to delve
2
him,
mana 8/8
he
with
enters
flying.
larger. He can enter as an 8/8 if you delve 5 instants or sorceries.
Instant or sorcery leaves your graveyard.
Exactly.
Put a 1/1 counter.
Oh my
And
god, dude.
whenever an instant
that
or sorcery
card's
leaves your
real
graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on him so he can get larger later on. And I was just looking at it and I was like,
Good. Well, do you
why
think
not print
he
this in
goes in
standard
like
set
blue
where
white as like
actually
a
get some,
one-of
could
finisher?
get some play? Like,
You don't?
as a...
Do you just not care? Are you just like riding the Teferi train home, like the Jason
No.
Teferi train? Like you just don't care about this?
No.
Well, as a board card, I mean, like, dude, game one,
In modern,
game
there's
one,
rest
you're
in
getting them
peace.
with this. Like,
Well, as a board card, I mean, like game one and game one you get.
yeah, but I mean, if you're a blue deck, if you're playing counterspell and
In game one, people
you know,
run
Doben's
path
vetoes and whatever,
removal.
yeah.
But that's the top end.
But don't get me
Well,
wrong,
here's
like,
the thing, too, you gotta think about.
2 mana.
I mean, with him in
8/8
mind,
would be amazing.
you're thinking like,
But
sure,
that's the top end
okay,
of the scale.
but overall, people don't typically board rest in pieces in against like control decks. It's just not something you think about. So, you know, I mean, unless you see a Snapcaster Mage and you might think like, all right, I'll board it in so I don't get like snapped Cryptic again. Like, but that's not really the deck a lot of people are thinking about when they're thinking about rest in peace. So you might still be able to like, you know, get this dude in there. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying though. Like, yeah.
But for modern,
Like, don't get me wrong, there are definitely possibilities.
Now,
But for
my
modern
question is, I don't know how
control,
viable this deck
you
is in
want
modern.
to chip away more than you want to just take big
Excuse me.
chunks.
But what about like mono blue? Like, is this just a big dumb thing mono blue wants that? Like, if you can deal with it, fine. But if you can't, then get wrecked.
a lot of the mono blue decks, if you can deal with it, fine. But if you can't, then unblockable creatures and enchantments.
A lot of the
Yeah.
mono blue decks are playing unblockable creatures.
Well, I mean, they're playing a lot of
enchantments.
protection for that stuff.
They're not
playing a lot of
whole
like,
lot of instants and sorceries.
I mean, you know, they're playing counter spells and stuff too. I would assume. Maybe not a boatload, but
Like, it's a possibility for decks. You know,
yeah. I mean, even if you don't get the whole 8/8 out of him, even if he's just like a 5/5,
Like it's a possibility
like
for
that's
decks
still a
like
5/5
that.
flyer that they have to deal with. And then if they rest in peace you after you played him, he just gets a bunch more counters
Oh yeah.
off of your graveyard getting yoinked, right? Like that's how that works. Yeah. So,
It's a bunch more
I mean,
off of your graveyard getting yoinked, right? Like played along with
Yes.
yeah. So
yeah.
I just don't think that's
We, it's just
I mean, that's fair.
we've played
I
long
don't think
enough.
it's
We can
going to
look
be
at
like
some of
tier
the cards
one,
and go,
like modern.
I just don't think that
you know,
going to get
whatever.
any play here.
But
I mean, that's fair.
And-
Saying it's like tier one, potentially good card that could work.
Yeah, no,
100% in another format.
in
it's
standard,
just
this would
sad
be
to
like
see a potentially good
yeah, in
card that
standard.
could
This
work.
is just
100% in
like an
another
awesome
format.
thing in standard, like totally
Not
a
get
thing
printed
that
in
any
that
blue deck would
format.
want to have. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
See about some other things that I felt the need to touch
Definitely.
on here. I mean, they. Where'd that be?
Let's talk about calibrated blast.
An instant.
That is a 3-mana red card.
It's 2 in a red.
Rare. An instant.
Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a
It's 2 in a red. And for an instant, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. Put the revealed cards at the bottom of your library in a random order. When you reveal a non-land card this way, Calibrated Blast deals damage equal to
Yeah,
that card's
that's
mana
pretty
value
silly.
to any target with a flashback.
Possible candidate for some of the
pretty silly.
with the
You think that's like a possible candidate for some of the
I don't know, like
like the storm decks, or is that just, do you not play it because most of your cards cost,
yeah.
lower
I mean,
on the
this
mana
doesn't
scale?
really like. Well, this says until you reveal a non-land card. So like, I mean, this sounds good on paper, but in practice, I don't think it's that great.
Like it could get
You play it and then hit and then you ping them for 1, and then you don't get to cast that lightning bolt, which would have just been better than
You
this.
could get what, like a lightning bolt?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this goes into. This seems like some kind of combo build around thing type deal, where you like
another card for maybe some kind of combo build around thing. Jessica or the
Like
the
another
only thing I
card
could
for
see
maybe
about this is if you
the Jessica or the
getting the card.
what I mean. What's your
Cabal's,
what's your go off
style.
like quote unquote your go off
instead of you
here?
getting
It's like,
a card, you just
it's like
deal
you
a bunch of
opt.
damage.
Like you have this in hand, you opt, you put like a you put on 11, you put a Blackstone Colossus on top of your deck, and then you play this, and then you blast them for. I mean,
Big card on top, and then
I don't know. I don't like that. I don't think that's good.
Some weird cards.
Cool design, cool like thought process, but like the actual
some
application
weird
of
cards
it.
getting printed.
Yeah. Karmic Guide's here. So yeah,
like, where does
Karmic
it
Guide,
actually come
2/2,
in to
5
be
mana,
useful?
Angel Spirit with flying, protection from black,
Yep.
Echo for 5. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your battlefield to the battlefield. I mean, Karmic Guide's always good. It's always been good, so I mean that's cool. I mean, Karmic Guide's always good.
Sanctificer Unvet.
No.
Okay.
It is a
Have you seen Sanctificer Unvec?
Oh, it's right under Karmic Guide. That's it right here.
It is a 2 white, or it's a white for a 2/2. Protection from black and from red. When Sanctificer on Invec. Man, that's messing me up. When it enters the battlefield, exile all cards that are black and red from all graveyards. If a black or
It's
red
too
permanent spell
specific.
or card
Like,
not on the
The
battlefield,
first line
you
of
put
text,
into a
protection from black and
graveyard,
red.
exile it
That's
instead.
great. Awesome. Sweet. But the exile only black and red cards from graveyards. That if it was just like exile your graveyard when it if it was like ETB rest in peace, like great.
Well, do you think
But
it
like
was maybe
you could just play
a
Ariok Champion.
Ariok champion that's not named Ariok champion for him? so that
This is not an ROG.
well,
We know it's not
for them
gonna be
putting in new cards
Yeah.
that people can play.
I think you're just better off.
This is not an ROG champion. We know it's not going to be 30
I hate
bucks.
saying that.
Do you
but,
think
like,
this
yeah,
might be like
but I mean,
the
like,
poor man's
just play
ROG champion?
Like,
I hate saying that, but budget builds are
Yeah.
like people. Some people can't spend.
Hey, man, like,
40 bucks on a car.
I get it.
budget builds
But
are
it's
everywhere.
just
like,
so,
people, some people can't spend 30, 40 bucks on a card. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, we get that.
It's not bad.
You know, WotC has to try and help them as well. Because when I looked at this card, that was my
I think
immediate thought was that
I think it's a good
this was
sideboard card.
potentially a cheaper
I don't think it's main deckable.
protection card.
I think
for
ROG Champion.
people.
I think ROG Champion is completely main deckable. Yeah.
because it's very
Exactly.
targeted.
All right. I don't think we talked about this
because
one
she
last
gains
time.
you life even
Damn.
from your own people.
All right. Damn. Black for a
We did
sorcery.
not.
Destroy
I had
target
that
creature.
pulled
A
up
creature
'cause I
destroyed this
figured
way
we would
can't be
talking about
regenerated.
it.
Overload for 2 white. It's Wrath of God. Yeah. Or Damnation. Yeah. So I mean, for 2 mana, you get a targeted quote unquote damnation, and then for 4 mana, you just actually get Damnation or Wrath of God. So I think this card is just. So we were kind of talking about this right after this card came out. At face value, I wanted to say this card's infinitely better than either of those. And I still, in a vacuum, I still agree with that. But there are some decks, because this card requires double black and or double white, there are some decks that just aren't going to be able to commit to that mana cost. So I understand where Wrath of God would be better for you, or Damnation might be better for you, or Supreme Verdict might be better for you, or there's plenty of 4 mana board wipes. But I think if you're playing a black-white deck, this is infinitely better than either Wrath of God or Damnation. Yeah.
Other than being
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes. Other than being like an Esper deck, I would say that yes, like this is pretty
Yeah.
solid.
Because if you're playing
for
mono
any
black, there's just no
format.
reason to play
But
this.
even if you splash
Right, like, you just
only
play,
white,
just play
or you
Damnation.
splash
Like, there's no
only
reason to play
black.
this. If you need board wipes, like, there's just no reason to play this. If you're playing mono white, what does this do for you? Like, it's literally just Wrath of God. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's where I kind of get where those other cards might be better. Are those
it
cards
exactly
even
is.
legal in Modern? Is Wrath of God even legal in Modern? Okay. I think so. Yeah. I know Damnation is. Okay.
I believe so. Yes.
It can't be countered. Yeah.
Yes.
Fair.
People just
but yeah, this
play
card's really good, and I do
Supreme
like
Verdict
this type
because
of design where it's like 2 mana
Yeah.
for a targeted thing, 4 mana get the whole board. Like I like that.
2 mana. If you notice too, like 4 mana, get the whole board. Like I'm gonna say like the old overload cards.
If you notice too, like
Broken.
they.
Old overload cards.
I'm not gonna say like the old overload cards were broken, but the old overload cards definitely had some extra key phrases in it that made them really good. This card doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Usually the old overload cards were like Mizio Mortars. It deals 4 damage
It gets
to, each,
everything.
or to target creature you don't control.
Deal 4 damage.
Overload changes target to each. So it's deal 4 damage to each, or to each creature
Yeah, 'cause
you
it's just Wrath of
don't
God, it's a
control.
board wipe.
This one they took out that you
Yeah.
don't control.
So it is
So if you overload it, it still gets all
Yeah,
of your
so-
creatures too.
All right.
So it is
Real quick,
literally
suspend.
a
It's
Wrath
the
of
ability
God.
to suspend. It's just its actual own card now. It's 1 blue in an instant. So that's kind of cool. I don't think it'll get any play in Modern though, because why? No one plays suspend cards a lot in Modern, so except for like Ancestral Recall. So I mean,
might be one of that some people might bring in against very specific decks.
Yeah.
Like, it might be a one of
Super.
that some people might bring in against very specific decks. But yeah, it's not.
No, actually, I take that back.
You're never gonna play
Super good.
I take that back. I didn't read the card. I just assumed, and that's my fault.
So you're not.
Suspend
You're never going to play it
one
on your
blue
own.
for an instant. Exile target creature and put 2 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend.
one blue for an instant. Exile
Yeah, so you can just mono blue can just use it like a removal spell.
doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. It gives it suspend. Yeah, so you can just mono blue can just use like a removal spell.
Well, yeah, but I
No.
mean, it gets rid of the card
Because it
for
gives
2
it
turns
suspend.
until it comes back.
It prolongs the inevitable.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it gets rid of the card for 2 turns. It's still going to.
If you don't.
But here's the
have
thing
a
about
way
mono
to
blue, though. Mono
deal
blue
with
is
it
all
in
about
those
tempo.
2
They don't play any
turns,
hard removal
it's
anyway. So
still
this is just
gonna
all
come in.
tempo. Yeah,
It's,
so in a mono blue tempo deck, this fits right in with what they're trying to do. Like, it just.
Oh
it
yeah,
will just,
most
they will
definitely.
drown you in card advantage and buy time by doing things like this that just annoy you. And then when you do get your stuff back, they just don't care anymore, or they're so far ahead it doesn't matter. So I mean, yeah.
And then when you do get your stuff back, a few
You know, like go.
Yeah, but for mono blue,
Kicking the can down the
that's-
road gets you a few extra steps. But yes, in mono blue,
Yeah.
where you draw so many cards, you can chain
That's
them
kinda-
together.
That's kind of
You
mono
can,
blue's whole bit
kick
is like
can,
kicking the
take
can
2
down the
steps.
road. Yeah.
Kick the can, take 2 steps, and by that point, you may have your hard counters. Exactly. So in some decks like that, yes, like
Yeah.
that'll be a pretty decent card to.
Yeah,
for those
nobody
decks
else is
to
playing
use.
this. Yeah.
Past that,
Excuse me while I drink some scotch.
I just
All right, here he is. The guy, your boy. Ignoble Hierarch.
All right, here he is.
1 green for a goblin shaman creature. He's a 0/1. He has exalted, and you can tap him and add a black, red, or green. So it's Noble Hierarch for Jund.
Exalted, and you can tap him and add a black.
Where are we at on this? Because we were talking about this a little bit earlier today. I think he's an auto include.
Like, it's not my colors.
Yeah.
I think he's an auto include.
like it's not my colors. I don't play that collection,
Yeah.
For those decks.
but I
Like,
do play
turn
Noble
2
Hierarch. Noble
Liliana of
Hierarch
the
is
Veil.
good.
That's
and
all I'm gonna
this
say.
can
Or
do
turn
a
2
lot
Liliana of
of
the Veil.
good work for those decks.
Into turn 3 Bloodbraid Elf. I mean, that's.
Two bomb into a removal backups.
Yeah, like turn 2 Bob with Fatal Push. But well,
Turn
here's the
2
thing. A lot of
Bob
we talked
into
about this
a
too.
removal backup
A lot of the
still.
Jund decks aren't actually playing Bob anymore, which kind of upsets me because I mean, the name of this show is Greatness at Any Cost. Like, come on, like I love that card. But I get it. Like Ren and 6 is just real good. So like. Ren and 6 gets you your lands back out of your graveyard. I guess your fetches back, which is great. But he doesn't actually. He's not turned to Liliana the Veil though. Like, I feel like having this. Plus, this is also something that can attack. You know, the Exalted will perk on him and give him a. If you attack with just him, he can be a 1/2. Or if you attack with just like your Tarmogoyf, it's going to get buffed or anything like that. So I mean, there is some other upside other than he's just a mana dork. But I don't know. I feel like this is just an auto include because between him and Scavenging Ooze, you have a really bad version of Deathrite Shaman, which is still better than not having Deathrite Shaman at all, in my opinion. So, like this guy will give you the mana abilities early game, like you would want out of DRS.
Hey, see, I'm not even going that far.
And then when you draw into Scavenging Ooze, you get to start popping a graveyard and gaining life and putting counters on Scavenging Ooze, like it.
And then when you draw into that's a long stretch.
I know. Look, I really want DRS back.
that's
Okay,
a
he's my
long
boy.
stretch
We got a
for
lot of
me.
history. Like we're pals. Like, but no, I think this is an auto include. Like that's just how I feel about it. I mean, I could be wrong, but what we kind of brought this up. What do you cut out of Jund to play this?
I mean, yeah.
Like, my opinion is, and I've always said this, I think they play too many one-mana hand disruptions. That's just me. I think they play too many. I don't think 6 hand disruption spells is... I mean, I get it, but...
You know, turn 7 Thoughtseize.
It's terrible.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Yeah, or like turn 4
7
Bloodbraid Elf into a
Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize or Inquisition is bad.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Like, if you late game BBE and hit Thoughtseize when they have no hand and you just blast yourself for 2, like, it's terrible.
But what about this? But what about now going turn 3 Bloodbraid Elf into a Thoughtseize?
Like, if you're on the play,
Does
it's
that work?
fine.
Is
But I
turn
mean,
3 Thoughtseize still
This
too
enabled
late?
you a turn 3 Bloodbraid Elf. Like, I feel like that's much more value than the Thoughtseize you get off of it, right? Like, plus with less hand disruption spells in your deck, you have more of a chance of, like, turn 3ing a BBE into, like, a Kolaghan's command or a Liliana or a Tarmogoyf for a Lightning Bolt, because you're not playing all those hand disruption spells. Like,
So basically, or a Liliana or a Tarmogoyf, you're not playing all their hand disruptions.
more or less. Like, I would probably play...
like, the way you're looking
I
at
know
it,
most
just
Gen decks
change
play
out
around
some
like
1-drops
6
for 1
hand disruption
drops.
spells, so I would go down to like 4. So you got 2 spots for these guys, and then I would probably back off on some degree of removal because they play a ton of removal, which, like, I mean, that's their whole thing, you know. But maybe that, or maybe like, I know some of them play some different creatures. I've seen some of them playing like there's some red creatures some of them are playing. I can't remember his name.
Season Pyromancer?
Yeah. Like, he's real good, but like maybe you board him and you run these main or something like that.
Seasoned Pyromancer?
Because he's kind of conditional. Like, so, I don't know. That's my thought on it. I think either way it's a good card. It's cool to see a Hierarch in another color scheme than just, you know, the Bant. So,
Here's a card you might not have looked at. It's a blue
Right, like-
suspend card, 0.
Here's a card you might have looked at. Might not have looked at. It's a blue, one of the suspend cards, 0 mana cost. You can only suspend it unless you know, like, roulette into it.
Yeah. Suspend 3.
Inevitable Betrayal. It's blue. Suspend 3 for 1 blue.
Onto the battlefield under your control.
Search target opponent's library for a creature card and put that card onto the battlefield under your control.
I'm trying to find it.
Then that player shuffles.
Where's that at?
I'm not sure on the actual fourth that.
Oh, Inevitable Betrayal. Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure on the actual
Search target opponent's
list.
library for a creature card and put that card
fourth
on the
down.
battlefield under your control. Then that player shuffles.
Is that playable for 3 mana and a suspended 3?
And here's my here's my
Is that
take.
playable for
The ability is
3
great.
mana and a suspend
Okay.
of 3?
I feel like suspend is what holds this card back. When you want, this is the ability that when you want it, you want it. You know what I mean? Like
Without the suspend, this is the ability that when you want it, you want it.
which is fine.
You know what I mean?
Okay, a mythic rare
Without the
for
suspend, this card would be
say it's
a
5
mythic,
mana.
though.
Even let's just say that a mythic rare at 5 mana that lets you do this,
Rare for
and it's a sorcery. Okay, cool, great. But that still means you have exact control over when it happens, and your opponent won't see it coming. Right? When you suspend this, they might be like, dang. And if they have any way to, like, get the thing that they know you're going to get out of their deck, then they can just go get it, and then when this pops, you whiff. Like, I mean, you're going to get something, so you're not going to whiff totally, but you're not going to get, like, their huge, big win condition or whatever it might be. Like,
other than elves, their huge ability to just pull their
But that's the thing. Other than elves,
I mean, that's fair, but
who's got the capability to just
I still
pull
like
their
this card
creature
being
that they're
like,
gonna win with out of their deck?
quote unquote a concealed weapon. Like you have it in your hand, no one knows you have it. You play it, you go get their thing, and then you mess them up with their own thing. That's infinitely better to me than like, here's what I'm gonna do in 3 turns. Hope you don't have a way to stop it, because I still think that's just too like
What if it was
forecasting.
just
Like,
a
oh man, they're
suspended
gonna
one?
do
Would
this
that be
thing now.
playable, or is that
Let me
still
modify my
too
game plan
far?
to deal with it. This seems like the kind of thing where you want to catch your opponent off guard and blow them out with their own thing. Like, if they see it coming, I don't really feel like it's going to have that kind of. Now, in Commander, this is just going to be fun. Like, because you're going to be playing in a pod with like 4 people, and it's like, I'm going to get something from somebody. Like, you know. So. I'm going to get something from somebody. Like, right. You know.
So I'm not sure if you know about this card.
Yeah.
This card basically is bribery. Bribery is you go through your opponent's deck.
Yeah, if they would have just reprinted bribery, I'd be like,
but
sweet.
It's 5 mana
Cool.
as a sorcery.
I'm not sure how this blows will work. Like, we have some cascade cards.
Okay.
That's very true. And that's another
Again,
thing,
like,
too. If you hit this off
I'm
Cascade,
not sure how this will
it's silly.
work. Like, we do have some Cascade
Yeah.
cards. You could Cascade into this.
Not only do I have some other things I've already played that have Cascade, now you just have to deal with whatever I come get out of your deck.
Not only do I have some other things already played that have cascade, now you just have
Just for the meme,
whatever I can get out of your
Phantasmal Dreadmaw.
I don't think I saw that.
It's Colossal Dreadmaw. It's just blue.
Phantasmal Dreadmaw.
It's a 4/4 Dinosaur
don't think I
Illusion.
saw that
Oh no,
one.
it's a 4 mana 6/6 Dinosaur Illusion with Trample.
What?
It's Colossal Dreadmaw, but it's blue. And it has like the Phantasmal, kind of condition that whenever it becomes a target of a spell or ability, you have to sacrifice it. But in limited, this is a bomb, dude. This is a straight bomb in limited. A 4 mana blue 6/6 trample, dude. Like in limited, this is
sounds
just
like
dumb.
4 mana blue.
So yeah, they kept the meme alive. Like,
Oh, I love that. They kept the meme alive. Like, more cards I want to.
I love that.
Do these
Okay,
look?
there are like 2 more
there's a
cards
couple more I
wanna,
wanna talk about. I was just trying to get to the
discuss,
multicolor
just
stuff.
as far as like, do these look playable?
There's a couple more I want to talk about.
no.
It's an uncommon. It is
Timeless Witness. Have you seen that one? It's an uncommon. It is Eternal Witness, but it's 1 more, 2 green and 2 for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, return target cards from your graveyard to your hand. But it also has
I think there's just no
Eternal
way
Eyes.
anyone on this planet plays this over E-Witness.
because
Like,
A
is-
managed to do the same thing.
Yeah.
There's no way rarely internalized.
Yeah. And
Because
E-Witness,
like it's 1 more mana to do the same
as
thing.
far as I know,
and
E-Witness isn't
you rarely
a super
eternalize
expensive card.
No, it's an uncommon as well.
Yeah, it's not like you're having to fork out $20 to $30 for E-Witnesses. Like, you can get E-Witness
No, it's an uncommon
for
as well.
pretty cheap. So I just don't. In limited, this will be cool. This will be good in limited. Oh, you got E-Witness in limited, sweet. Like, you got worse E-Witness in limited, cool. But in constructed, in modern, no.
Yeah.
No.
That was the only card that's like monocolor that I wanted to
Yeah.
construct for in multi. I do have a multicolor
Okay,
card.
like because that was the only card that's like monocolor that I wanted to check on
let's
before you
see.
went to the multi. I do have a multicolor card.
There's another
I wanna get, like,
Planeswalker I
some
guess we should talk
opinions on.
about. Gaedrone, Dehada.
There's some really good multicolor cards in this set.
She is Esper colors and 1, so 4 mana.
Yeah,
Legendary creature Dehada. I think that's a typo. 'Cause she's blatantly a planeswalker. Protection from permanents with corruption counters on them. Spoiler alert, she's about to start putting corruption counters on all your stuff. Yeah, +1. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Put a corruption counter on up to 1 other target creature or planeswalker. -3, gain control of target creature or planeswalker until end of turn. Untap it and put a corruption counter on it. It gains haste until the end of turn. -7, gain control of each permanent with a corruption counter on it. So, I like her. At least she stays in theme with herself, and there isn't anything about her that makes her like
At least she stays in things.
super conditional. Like, you can play her in any kind of Esper shell, and she just works on her own. She's self-contained. Grixis, my bad. Yeah. What did I say? So unlike
She's
the
Grixis.
Esper Planeswalker we talked about last week, where he had 2 real
said
good
Esper.
abilities, and then that made him way too conditional. She's completely self-contained.
And then one that just
So-
didn't make sense.
She's not conditional. You can just play her in any Grixis deck, and she's good. And she's not overly expensive at 4 mana.
She's not 4 mana for your 4 loyalty. Put her out, plus her.
Like,
She's not overly expensive. Drain someone for 2.
like 4 mana for 4 loyalty. You put her out. You
Their
plus
thing,
her.
yeah, that's fine.
You drain someone for 2, and
Negative
then
3
give her
can actually
protection
just be a
from
win con. You
anything
can just
that they
drop her,
have.
steal their thing, kill
Like,
them.
that's
Like,
amazing.
Negative 3 can actually just be a win con. Drop her, swing, kill a
Like,
planeswalker.
yeah, like you take their creature, you untap it, swing, kill a
can't attack her,
planeswalker
yeah.
that they have maybe, and then
And then
they
if you
get
just
the
build
thing
her up
back,
by just
and it
putting
has
corruption counters on
so
all
it
their
still
stuff,
can't attack
eventually
her.
you just steal it
You
all from
protect her from 2
So
different
yeah,
things.
I actually like her.
If you just build her up by just
Now, Grixis has never really been super popular in Modern.
now,
The last time I can remember Grixis being like super viable was like Splinter Twin. Like, yeah. But she's really good. She's really good, and I think
They've
if she
been
has a
printing
proper
some
shell
pretty
to be
low
in,
Nicol
then
Bolas
she'll,
mana cost
yeah, that can be a good card.
cards. Who knows?
Mirari's Wake, they reprinted that. Okay.
it seems like they're printing stuff to make a pretty decent Enchantress deck.
Yeah.
It seems like they're printing stuff to make a pretty decent Enchantress deck
Yeah.
for Modern as well.
Two legendary enchantment creatures.
Sithis, Hand of the Harvest,
Cast an enchantment
a
spell.
green and a white for a 1/2 legendary enchantment creature.
There's another one that's
When you cast an enchantment spell, gain 1 life and draw a card.
whenever you play an enchantment.
There's another one that's when it's
Yeah,
a
there
3
seems to be a
mana
lot of,
one.
like-
I think it's just mono green.
Like
Whenever
Theros
you play an
type
enchantment
creatures in this set,
draw a card.
like enchantment creatures, stuff like that. They reprinted Fire and Ice. Okay,
Very.
sure.
Creatures, stuff like that.
The card that I want to talk about,
Okay. Sure.
the card that I'm the most excited about.
Card deck.
It's definitely not Shardless Agent. It is Vindicate.
Is it Shardless Agent?
So, the day, I mean, the down to the minute this card was spoiled, I got on TCG Player and bought 2 Vindicates. They came in today, put them in my Modern deck. Can't wait. Get wrecked. Vindicate. Black, white, and a colorless for a sorcery. Destroy target permanent. I mean,
Vindicate.
the only thing that would make this card better is if it was an instant.
Destroy target permanent.
But I'm fine with it not being. I'm just fine with it not being an instant. Fine, whatever.
I mean, yeah.
And then it is an instant. So yeah, I
That's
think
why you
any
just
deck
play
that can
Esper
run
and
this
you
is
have
just an
Teferi
auto
on
include,
board.
right? Like we were saying the other day, like Esper just between this and Counterspell, Esper has a lot of ammunition now. No, not a whole, not in Esper anyway.
Not a grip of them for sure, but
Oh yeah,
1, possibly 2, just because it gets.
that's the thing. You can
It
just
gets rid of
it's
any
destroy
lands that
target
may cause
permanents. You can just
problems.
bust Tron lands
any
with this.
planeswalkers, any
You can just
creatures, any
bust
artifacts, any enchantments.
enchantments, creatures, planeswalkers, like.
Yep.
It costs you the same amount of mana as
And it doesn't. It costs you the same
Yeah.
amount of mana as a
basic land out.
Yeah.
a Field of Ruin cost, but it also doesn't
Yeah.
let your opponent ramp that.
Well, the only
basic
downside is
land
that it
out.
couldn't be countered.
So it's better.
Like,
It
so
just
you know, Field of Ruin
shuts,
can't be countered
you
because
know,
of
that
land.
land production.
Well, I
out.
do like.
The only downside is with it, chances are they don't
Yeah.
have counter stuff.
Yeah. But
if you're
like
looking
my
to take
deck,
out lands with
it
it,
just
chances
so
are
my deck's
they
very
don't have
weak
cards
against
to counter your
Ugin.
stuff.
We've talked about this. Super weak against Ugin decks. And this just this gives me great main deck Ugin hate. The problem with other main deck Ugin hate,
This definitely
like
helps
if I wanted
level
to
the
play like
playing
Heroes
field.
Downfall or something like that, like it's double black, which is hard for my deck.
Or even
But it just only hits certain things, like
even
4
D-Spark
greater mana
for your
cost.
deck
Yeah,
would be
it's just
super good. Almost,
you know,
yeah, exactly. Like
just in there for Ugin. Yeah.
partial crit.
This will
There's no
get
point having a card
anything.
that's
It's never
only
going to be a dead
gets-
draw. Like I can,
Yeah,
it
like
will pop
partial
anything you want to
credit.
pop.
This will get
So like for me, I'm playing one main and one in the board.
it will pop
Might go two main and one in the board. Just got to do some play testing to see how it shakes down. But definitely really stoked about having Vindicate.
Territorial Kavu having Vindicate.
Yeah.
Territorial Kavu.
Domain. Territorial Kavu's
Red and
power
green
toughness
for
increases
a
the number of
star
basic
star.
land types among
Domain.
lands
Territorial Kavu's power and toughness are each equal to the number of basic land types among lands you control.
My only beef with this dude
So-
is that. Right there.
When
Like
you
his
play
other
it,
abilities
it's
are good. Whenever
at
he
least gonna
attacks,
be
choose
a
one.
2/2.
Discard a card if you do draw a card. It's cool loot. Or exile up to one target card from a graveyard. Like his abilities are great. And I mean, I guess a 2-mana 2/2 with these abilities is playable. But if you're playing him in like a Naya deck, he gets infinitely better. Right, because now he's a 3/3. If you're playing him in a 4-color deck, he gets infinitely better. So, yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm thinking.
you don't want to play him in a 2
'Cause if you're playing-
his
if you're
fit
playing
is at
Gruul-
least a 3-color, right?
aggro, like
Like a Jund or a Naya.
If you're playing yards just for attacking,
I mean, he does give you
He's just
something
a
to hit with
2/2
Burning
for
Tree
2. I mean, you
Emissary.
can get stuff out of people's yards just for attacking and things like that.
Like, so I mean, okay, but I mean, if you go like Burning Tree, this dude, that's pretty good turn two. Like, so I mean, okay, I mean, if you go like Burning Tree, this dude, it's pretty good turn two. Yeah.
yeah, but there's
I don't
other
think Jun likes this.
cards you could hit that are higher power.
Yeah,
You
I don't
you
think
could
Jun
just
likes
play a
this.
Tarmogoyf.
Like your two drops,
That
your
would
two
be,
drop
like,
position is
as
just
strong
so
as him, possibly.
clogged up anyway with things that are better than this. Bob.
Like you've got Ren and
Tarmogoyf,
Six,
you've got,
What's
the guy that he's a
You've
black?
also got
Yeah, scavenging ooze. You also have some decks used to. They don't anymore that I've
You got
seen. But some decks
scavenging
used to play the
ooze.
guy that was like a black and a green, and he was a 2/2. And if you had a certain number of, the delirium dude. Yeah, some even used to play him. So it's like you got a lot of 2-drop.
Oh, the delirium
stuff in
guy.
Jun that I think beats out this guy. But now if Naya Zoo becomes a format or becomes
okay.
if Naya Zoo becomes a playable archetype, definitely the deck for this guy.
Definitely a playable card.
Yeah, a 2-mana 3/3 that lets you loot or
Like,
main
Hell-
deck graveyard hate. Yeah, because they don't have a lot of things.
Yeah.
The issue with the Naya deck with like Naya Zoo in the past was it just didn't have a lot going on for it. It was just like kind of vanilla creatures that had like big power, but they didn't really do much. So this gives you a lot of versatility in that deck if that deck comes back and becomes a real archetype again.
because yeah, like I like the card, but I was, I'm on that same part.
Yeah.
Has to be
Okay. Because like I like the card, but
All right,
was.
I'm gonna go for it. Okay.
I'm
here
on
we
that
go.
same thread of has to
Asmore-
at least be 3 colors.
I already messed up. Asmore
Okay, here we go.
Animardicadistincta Calduskar? Yeah. No mana cost. It's a black-red creature with no mana cost. It's not even 0, it's no. We'll get to that in a minute. Legendary creature, human wizard, he's a 3/3. As long as you've discarded a card this turn, you may pay a black or a red to cast this spell. So, you have to find a way to discard a card, and then he's 1 mana, either a black or a red. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name again. When this guy enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named the Underworld Cookbook. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Sacrifice 2 foods. Target creature deals 6 damage to itself. So I guess we need to find out what the Underworld Cookbook does. So
You can, if I remember correctly, you can tap. So I guess we need to find out what the Underworld Cookbook does. The Underworld
You can, if I remember correctly, you can tap it to make food. Here it is. The Underworld Cookbook. It's a colorless artifact, cost 1. Tap, discard a card, create a food token. 4 and tap it. Sacrifice Underworld Cookbook. Return target creature card from your
That's not a
graveyard
great payoff
to
for
your
this
hand.
guy. I like all of his other abilities.
It's pretty bad.
I don't think he's bad, but his payoff being this thing is not. I don't vibe with it.
But his payoff being this
I don't vibe with it at all. And he seems real wacky, and there's going to be some decks I just don't get what he goes into. Like,
Yeah.
and he seems real wacky, and there's going to be some decks. His ETB, I don't think he's into.
Well,
Where it's going to be
his ETB I don't think means anything. Where
Yeah,
it's
but 1
gonna
mana,
be
3/3.
good is the fact that if you can discard a card, he's going to be 1
it's not
mana.
bad. Did we talk about
That's pretty good.
Cauldron Complete last time?
Did we talk about
It's the first artifact.
I do not know.
Okay.
Card, I think the words are not in English at that.
So
What it did.
No,
Cauldron
that
Complete
card,
is
I
7
think,
mana
was not in
for a
English at
legendary
that point.
artifact
I knew what
equipment
it done,
with a living
did,
weapon.
but I didn't.
So that means that it makes a 0/0 germ token when it ETBs and it attaches itself to that germ token. It has indestructible. An equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has first strike, trample, indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature, and then normal equip is 7. So this is a Batterskull contender for sure. I think in a Stoneblade deck, this gives you... So my issue with playing Stoneblade in Modern has been I didn't know what my third piece of equipment I wanted to run would be. Like when I played Legacy, I would run Batterskull, Sword of Feast and Famine, and Jitte. So you don't get Jitte in Modern, which is unfortunate. So I didn't really know what else I wanted to run. Like Sword of Fire and Ice is fine, but I felt like that was more of a board card. I didn't like having it main deck. 100% this is the third piece of equipment. So you're playing Feast and Famine, this, and Batterskull.
100%.
Like,
I don't like it.
really?
The point of Batterskull is you can bounce it to your hand and play it.
I don't like it.
Really is?
The point of Batterskull is you can bounce it to your hand and play it again.
You can't bounce it to your hand.
This, if they
You just have to pay 7 mana to re-equip it.
You can't. You can't bounce it to your hand and play it again to get the creature.
Yeah.
At that point, it's
That's the
that's the problem. You have to find another creature.
To keep making your own creature.
That's the great thing about Batterskull is he
And plus,
makes
we
his own
talked about
creature.
this.
You can bounce
I say we, me, and some people online were kind of
and he
arguing
never
this.
costs you more
a lot
than
of people
5 mana.
just really highly valued this card, which I get. I do too. I think it's a good card, but I do not think it's better than Batterskull. Not because of just the reason you said, which is definitely the reason, but the life link from Batterskull is just too indispensable.
By no means.
People play Path, and people also
People play Path.
people also
Like,
play
the Indestructible is
Blitz
nice,
and mono
but it
red burn,
doesn't protect
and they just
you like
sling
people
spells
think
at your
it's going
face,
to.
or they play Phoenixes that just go over your head and smash your face in, right? And having all these keywords on this card doesn't do anything for that. Does absolutely jack nothing. If your opponent Faithless Lootings, well, they can't do that in Modern anymore, but if your opponent somehow gets 3 Phoenixes out of their graveyard and slams them on the battlefield in one turn and nines you in the face, playing this the next turn is going to do nothing for you. Right? If your opponent just starts slinging lightning bolts and stuff in your face, this does nothing for you. Batterskull gets you out of those jams. Yeah. This just doesn't. This is kind of like a... So Batterskull is the kind of card that will, if you're behind and you play Batterskull, at the very least you're at parity now, but you're probably actually ahead. This card is kind of a win more. Yeah, if you're ahead and you play this, you've locked the game. Your opponent's not winning. If you're behind and you play this,
definitely.
You probably actually still just behind.
If you're behind when you play Batterskull's equip cost. You probably actually
3.
And like, what is Battle
Right?
Skull's equip cost?
It's bounce. I think its bounce cost is 5. That's
Wait.
what it cost. It's
I
5
don't know.
mana.
I don't play Battle
and it's 5 mana to bounce it. But
like
its equip
5.
cost is only 3. You know what? Let me like just
You could probably just click it and it will cost.
It's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
You know what? Let me like just. Let's see.
You could probably just click it and it pulls it up.
It's like
Nope, it doesn't pull it up. Like,
Let's see here. I got some.
you think it would pull it up as
weird
like
image searching
you know,
here.
This
Battle
card
Skull.
is like a lot like
Yep,
these
no,
cards.
return Battle Skull to its owner's hand is 3. Equip is 5. So I had it backwards. But still, it's only 5 mana, not 7. And yeah, 3 mana to just bounce it back to your hand, and then boom. And this gives your creature vigilance and lifelink, which means you get to attack and defend with a big stick that has lifelink. Like it.
Battle Skull isn't like get to attack.
No, it's not. You can play.
You can have 2 Battle Skulls.
Like
Yes,
Battle Skull isn't
that was the
legendary,
super
correct?
secret board tech. Was you played another
So
Battle
you
Skull
can
in your
have 2
sideboard,
Battle Skulls on the battlefield.
and then you both them.
This is a legendary.
Yeah.
And how many creatures do you actually
No, because that works. But again, like it.
Well, you played
How many
like,
creatures did you
So in my deck, I
actually
played
play
4
in that deck?
Stoneforge Mystics. I played 4 Bobs. I played 4 Tide Hauler Scullers. So that's 12. I was playing 4 Deathrite Shamans because it was a legacy and you could still do it at the time. So yeah, okay. So you had 16 creatures. You could technically strap a Battle Skull Deathrite Shaman if you were just that kind of person. And then you played 3 copies of Lingering Souls. And that was
talking about,
so
like,
the move
now.
was Battle Skull on a Lingering Souls token. Like that was the move. Yeah. The move was Battle Skull on a Lingering Souls.
Of course.
You're playing that exact same. If I was playing this deck in Modern,
minus
it would be
Deathrite
that exact
Shamans.
same
4
package,
4
just
Modern.
minus DRS.
If I play this deck in Modern, you have a decent exact
Probably 4 copies of Lingering Souls, 4 Bobs, 4
like, you have a decent amount of
Stoneforge,
creatures.
4 Tide Hauler Sculler.
4 copies of Lingering Souls. Would you 4 Bobs? You're playing that deck. Someone paths this guy.
So
Rather,
would you?
you know,
You're playing that deck. Someone paths this guy.
Yes, the only time I bounce
you
is if they go to
rather-
destroy the Battle Skull.
You know,
Yeah.
try to equip this.
yes, the only time I bounce is if they go end of turn.
Well, exactly. Like, would you rather try and equip this to something, or be able
No,
to like
I just
end of
re-equip
turn,
it to whatever's on the battlefield.
You know,
now,
like,
if I
pull
have
your Battle
nothing,
Skull to your hand
and
if
I'm
they
like
try to
jazz hands, or
destroy
I have a
it,
bunch of
or-
thought seizes in hand that aren't doing anything, then I'll bounce it and replay it. Sure, but like if I have a creature I can play, or a creature that's already out, like if I have a Bob out, and if I have Battle Skull, because like let's say if you've played this before turn 5, then you have a Stoneforge Mystic on the battlefield. So let's just say you turn 2 Stoneforge, you turn 3 Battle Skull, and then they Fatal Push your Skull token. Like, cool. I'm just equipping this thing to Stoneforge Mystic. Gotta deal with it. Like, yeah.
Because he's equipped. I'm just equipping this thing to.
Yeah.
You have that capability to.
So, my
Because
issue with
equip
Cauldra
only
Complete
5. You have that capability to.
is most of these decks
capability
aren't going to get
do
the 7
that.
mana. Like, when I was playing that Stoneforge deck, I was
mana
only
is
playing like
so
22
much.
lands, I think, in that
Yeah.
deck.
When I was playing that deck, I was only playing you get to like 7 mana and you immediately.
Like how many games have you played where
Yeah,
you
no,
get
in Modern,
to like
unless
7
you're playing
mana and
Control
you
or like
immediately
Valakut or something like that, you just
start
don't want
looking at
7
it, it's like I'm
lands.
flooding.
Yeah.
In Modern, when you win Control or like Valakut or something like that, you just don't want 7 mana.
So maybe this
Yeah.
is.
So that's
you've
another
kind of
thing
taught
for
me.
me is like, it's-
You've kind of taught me out of it. Maybe
From a person who likes to play Tron, I like to play
It's
7
too
Yeah.
much
I think
mana.
this still winds up in your 75 somewhere.
This
like,
is from a
in
person
the
who
board,
likes
probably.
to play Tron. I like
just-
to play 7-drop colorless things.
I think you do that too. So there are some decks where you go,
in the board probably.
maybe
would
I
say
just
go with
want
the
this.
second
Maybe I
Battle
just
Skull.
wanted to like slam it, cram it, and jam face. Like,
Maybe I just want this. Maybe I
but I think Battle Skull's just better.
slam it, cram it. I think this is a card that is printed for this set.
Like I think this is a card that is printed for this set.
Making for Modern.
as
Yeah.
playing in sealed or draft that people are
Yeah.
mistaking for modern.
In this set, you're gonna get.
Because in this set, this is a good card.
Yeah, I think.
Like, there's a bunch of ramp in this
Yeah.
set. You're going to get
I can
there.
agree with that. I think people are overvaluing it because
But
it just
I
has.
think- I think
It's
people are
keyword
confused
salad.
on
They
it.
just took a bunch of keywords, they slung it at the card, and they were like, "Look what all this can do." But when you start adding it up, I just don't really care that it can do those things.
Look what all this can do. The one card directly under this, I'm more excited about than that card.
Oh yeah, it's Void Mirror. Yeah, we talked about that one last
directly
week.
under this, I'm more excited about than that
Oh,
card.
Nettle says there it is. Okay.
No, it's Nettle.
Yeah, a 3-mana artifact equipment with living weapon, and equip creature gets +1/+1 for
Yes,
each artifact
I'm
and or
looking forward to
enchantment you
that card.
control. So yeah, that's. Yeah, I think that's. I personally, I like that card a lot better too. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's equipped for 2. So,
Well,
maybe
Good
Affinity
segue
will
here,
come
and
back
let's
a
wrap
little
up on this
bit,
one because we are,
and we can
we're over
see-
that hour mark already. But let's wrap up on this one. Speaking of Infinity, Ornithopter Paradise. This is how I feel about Ornithopter Paradise.
Ornithopter Paradise.
I mean, it's a Bird of Paradise for 2 mana instead of 1. It's just colorless. Why do I care? Why do I care? Why do I care? You already have this. It's just green and it costs 1 mana. Why would I want it for colorless and it costs 2? I mean, Infinity plays this for sure. Like, Ornithopter is just
Do they?
strictly better because it costs no mana.
I don't think you do. Because they're
Yeah.
Affinity plays cards that have affinity, so you want all of your early drops to be 0. So what's the point of playing this over the 0 mana version when it's going to reduce your mana cost of your bigger things anyways and earlier? Like Affinity can play 3 Ornithopters and then play
Yeah, you're right.
a
I think it's
large
just a fun card. Like,
on
it's
turn
cool,
1.
but
they
it's
can't
just
do
not
that with
a
this.
real thing. Yeah. And I lied. I think a bunch of people would accost us if
It's
I
a
left
set
this
card.
out.
It's
so this is going to be the
gonna
last card we
good
talk
in this
about.
set.
Soul Talisman. It's an artifact with suspend. It's 3 plus 1. So that means that you play this on turn 1 for, and you play this on turn 1, right? And then you have to wait 3 turns. Oh, no, it enters on turn 3, but you have to pay 1 mana too,
Turn
right?
4. Turn 4 is when it enters. No.
Oh, okay.
Turn
yeah,
1,
I'm bad at
play
math.
it, and it has 3 suspend counters. Turn
And
2,
you still have to.
it goes
So on
down
turn
to
4, you get this, and
turn
you have to
3
pay a
goes
mana
down
to
to
do it.
1. Turn 4
And
it goes
it's
down
Soul
to
Ring.
0, and you can cast it on turn 4. Yes.
So, okay, so Cody brought up a
Just give us Soul Ring.
extremely scary point that might have some validity to it. When this drops, do they ban Soul Ring in Commander? When this drops,
do they ban Soul Ring in Commander? Because Soul Ring has been printed.
I don't think they do. Because Soul Ring has been printed in every Commander deck,
Or you
period.
mean Commander? There will literally be
I
riots in
think
the
if they
street.
ban Soul Ring in Standard, or in Commander,
How
it's...
So,
are you going to print something?
Yeah, because, it's like, how are you going to
Yeah.
print something in
It's a
every set
quintessential
and go,
Commander
no, this is
card."
fine. This is like, because it...
yeah.
The thing is, it can go in
So my second
every
question then
color,
is,
period.
do you play
Like,
this too?
there's no
Like, do you just play
point
this
in
too?
banning
Do you
that.
care?
So my second question then
It's not bad.
I thought this was was a suspend when I first looked at it.
Like I thought this was a suspend 2 when
it's
I
gonna
first
help with,
looked
like-
at it. But for a suspend 3,
So there's absolute okay.
I
First off,
honestly
let's
hate
just
it.
because this is about modern. Let's absolutely just establish this is completely not playable in modern. Like this is just not a thing. Okay,
The suspend was
like suspend 1.
if the suspend was like the Lotus Bloom,
Maybe. Okay.
where it was suspend 3, but you cost 0 to play to suspend it. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a suspend 3. I don't think.
But the fact that it
It's like
costs
it was a
1
good
produces
idea,
2
but they just
colorless,
nerfed it too much.
and it's a suspend
They were afraid of it
3,
being
I
broken,
don't
so they
think
overdid it. They nerfed
it's
it a
worth
little too hard. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me
Yes.
wrong. They were afraid to play like a Charlotte's agent and the sealed and you reveal this.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if
Yeah.
you play like a Shardless agent in the sealed and you reveal this and you get to play it for free without suspending it,
Yeah.
Dude,
like,
that's amazing.
turn
Okay.
3 you get that, and then turn 4 you can play another land and have 6 mana.
Yeah.
And they have
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, I get that.
But again,
they
it's
have to make sealed.
for the set, and they have to print cards like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they have to
So
make
this will be super spicy in
sealed
draft, where you
and
like
draft
ramp into your
fun,
big
or
dumb
people
thing,
won't
where you ramp
enjoy
into your
it.
Cauldra complete and win the game. Yeah,
When you don't have a one drop play, you have
Yeah.
this is what you have.
yeah,
Your turn 1, you don't have a 1-drop play. This is what you have. Hey,
yeah.
you know,
Okay.
feel the
That's fair
dread
enough.
and
So
wonder what
that
I'm
kind of
going
wraps
to
us
do
up
on turn
for
4 once I get
our
this extra
Modern
2 mana.
Horizons review. We didn't go over everything, but we went over the things that we thought were the most relevant looking things. If we missed anything, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a comment telling us something we should have talked about, something we should have went over. If you got any comments on our opinion about historic, by all means, roast us with it. Tell us how awesome and balanced the format is, and you can be wrong. That's fine. You have the capability to be wrong, and don't let me get in your way. But
You have the capability to
hit that
be
like
wrong.
button, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Google Podcast or Spotify or any of the other podcast apps, leave us a review, subscribe, and all that stuff. And we'll be back next week. Thanks. Leave us a review, subscribe, and all that stuff. And we'll be back next week. Thanks.
Peace.